Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About. My name is Taco. That's why the name Taco is in the channel, right? It's a pun. It's not really my name. My name's Mark, but whatever. I want to talk about Song of Ice and Fire. So I'm a gigantic Song of Ice and Fire guy. Listen to the books. I don't read well. My blindness makes it hard to read. But anyways, I listened to the books multiple times. I've listened to Fire and Blood multiple times. And I've deep dived into all the deep crevices of YouTube for Song of Ice and Fire content. I'm even subscribed to Preston Jacobs. All right, that's some hardcore tinfoil stuff. He's only right about half of the stuff, but still, I wouldn't even give him that much. But anyways, with how great House Dragon's doing, I don't know. I want to make some Song of Ice and Fire content. I do got 2 other videos that I would consider Song of Ice and Fire content already on this channel. That is my every single Targaryen tier list that I did with my buddy Soda. Go check that out if you haven't. And also, I've done every Song of Ice and Fire monster Pokemon type, right? I bet you can't guess what an Ice Dragon's Pokemon type are. It's Ice and Dragon. But so today, I wanted to do my top 30 houses. It started off as top 10. I couldn't get them all down. Then it became 20 and then 25 and now 30. I almost just said screw it and did 100. But I didn't. Let's just call it at 30. There's a lot of houses I wanted on here that I just didn't have the room. And I got some really weird choices because I'm just like a really weird person. So of course I got some weird choices. I want everyone to know I didn't do top best houses because I named it favorite because this is me. There are things I like about certain houses that other people don't. I have weird criteria. It's just all off feel. I got some houses that just one story or one thing from the lore is really awesome, and that knocks them super high. And then I have like really important big houses that kind of don't do a lot of interest. Like there's not a lot of interesting stuff to them. Then I got some that due to just symbolism and stuff like that, they're higher up, right? So anyways, this is a crazy list. Let's just get into it. The first one's going to be kind of a goof, but I stand by it. I stand by all these, but please, this is my opinion. I'm going to have some controversial picks because it's just me. I'm a really weird guy, so I got weird picks. Please tell me your top 10, your top 5, your top 30, your top 100 in the comments, and let's just jump into it. That was my Philip DeFranco there for you. My favorite 30 A Song of Ice and Fire houses, just my opinion. All right, let's get into 30. All the way from the Western Lands, you have House Bracks. All right, so location, Hornville, notable members, Lord Titus Bracks. He's not that notable. And Sir Flemmet Bracks. Flemmet. His name is freaking Flemmet. All right, my main reason, Flemmet wears armor inlaid with amethysts and striped purple and silver cloak. His horse head helmet is a spiral horn 2 feet long, and his shield displays a unicorn of House Bracks. And that's just funny. Why does that get him on here? Why is one dude named Flemmet Bracks and just his goofy armor make him number 30? By the way, I don't do any edits. This is mostly improv. That's just the way I roll around here. If you're wondering why I say too much, it's because everybody says a lot. Just everybody else edits out their ums. I don't. Okay. Anyways, now that that's out of the way. So Flemmet Bracks is a bannerman to Tywin Lannister and then later Jaime. So he's part of war councils from the beginning, right? He's there when like Tyrion shows up and does his little fight in the first book. Which is it, Oxcross? It doesn't matter which battle it is. I don't think it's Oxcross, but no, it's definitely not. Anyways, it doesn't matter. He hangs out with, so he's a top bannerman to Tywin Lannister, right? So that means he's got like Amory Lorch next to him and Gregor Clegane next to him and like Strongbor, Craig Halls. Like he's surrounded by these like monsters and these giant, huge guys. And Homeboy's just rocking like a purple and pink unicorn costume. Just unironically. He's just constant. He's hanging out with Tywin Lannister and Gregor Clegane. Dude's got a unicorn head. What? That is so low-key badass. I don't care. All right? Flemmet. His name's Flemmet. Would you if anyone needs a nickname, it's Flemeth Bracks. That's it. That's how House Bracks got into it. Welcome to my list. It's just a good way to start my list. All right, let's talk about House. Royce is my 29. Then Runestone and the Vale. Bronze Jan Royce, big in the books, and his son Robar, and his son Weimar, and then Lady Rhea Royce, who you guys have seen recently in House of the Dragon. Smash. All right, random reason. Weimar. So Weimar Royce, Robar's kind of cool. They, and so is Jan, Bronze Jan, but Weimar's kind of like really significant. So he was a ranger in the Night's Watch who was killed while ranging beyond the wall. So this is the first chapter. This is the prologue chapter of the first book. So he is the first POV character. Their words, by the way, are we remember. But think of this. If you guys go back and recheck out that chapter, there's like when he runs into the others, the White Walkers, they kind of test him. They kind of like wait a little second. He's got like first man blood. He's not like follows the old gods or anything, but he's got first man blood. The Royces go back really far, and he's like this, he's this ranger. So they really kind of like wait a second, and I'm pretty sure it's the others going, "This guy Azor Ahai? Is this guy Azor Ahai reborn? Is he like important?" And then they see that he sucks, and they're like, "Oh!" And they literally laugh at him and then kill him. That's kind of like really cool and significant that Weimar Royce of all people, they're like, he might be, is he? All right, he isn't, but maybe. I just think that's really cool. And also the Royce is just old god, or they're not old god worshiping. They might be, I don't know. But this really strong old family, and they really kind of feel like if it wasn't for the Aarons, the Royces would be in charge of the Vale, like hands down. Like they are definitely like the second most powerful house in the Vale. And that's awesome. And I like them. And I like that they hang out with the Starks. Like they're really close with the Starks. It's cool. All right. So that was 29. Let's get to 28. Tarly, Hornhill in the Reach. Notable members, Hendon the Horn, and Harlan the Hunter are both founders. Both of them are sons of Garth the Greenhand. Yes, we will cover him later. Samuel Savage, Sam Tarly, is a character from the past who was awesome. And then, of course, Randall Tarly and Samar Tarly are notable members. Sam the Slayer kind of earns this spot single-handedly. That and they have a Valyrian Steel Heartsbane. Their words are first in battle. Yeah, I mean, the Tarlys are just kind of like the house in the Reach that, like, you need a war, you go talk to the Tarlys. Like, going back, far back, the Tarlys are kind of like the warrior house. And they're related to Garth the Greenhand. I know a lot of houses are related to the Garth the Greenhand. But yeah, and then you got Sam, who is probably a top 10 character in the main books. Like, Sam's the best. So that's what earned them the spot. Not a high spot, just 28. All right, Mormont, 27. Yeah, Mormon Keep, possibly. Is that the name? We don't know. On Bear Island in the north. Lady Mage Mormont is currently in charge. And then you got Daisy Mormont and Jorah Mormont and Jorah Mormont. Jor and Jorah. Nice names. Gior. So this is what I kind of like about them. They got that big warrior lady thing. So, like, they have this hall that's made of huge logs surrounded by an earthen palaceway. They're just kind of like, everything's made of wood. Their gate has a carving of a woman in bearskin with a child in one arm suckling at a breast, and the other hand is a battle axe. That is just so cool because it's like this cool, like, bear, like mama bear thing is what Mormonts are going on. Like, both Jor and Jorah are great, but you always hear about like the she-bears of House Mormont and how their ladies are first in battle. Awesome. And that's super cool. Also, they had Longclaw, and both Jorah and Jor are amazing characters in the book. One more than the other. Jorah's got more going on, but Jor in the first couple books that he's in, he's great. I also love, if you go back, maybe that was Daisy Mormont. I can't remember. I'm getting names mixed up now. But if you go back, like Cregan Stark in Fire and Blood, or was it Cregan? It wasn't Cregan. It was a different Stark that met with Queen Alyssane, like back in the day. She flies up to the north. I wasn't planning on saying this, so this is all out of my memory. But she's like, hey, sorry, I never got a chance to meet your lady. I heard she passed. And he's like, she was a Mormont of Bear Island. She wasn't much of a lady, but she was the father, or the mother of my children, and she was a badass. And I just love that. Like, she wasn't much of a lady, but she was pretty awesome. Yeah. So Mormonts, there you guys go. 26, we got House Dondarrion. Blackhaven in Stormlands, awesome name, Blackhaven. Beric Dondarrion is the most notable member, one of the only notable members. And then you have Beric, kind of like, this is my slide that has the least amount written on it, but it is kind of single-handedly won by Beric Dondarrion because he's such an interesting character, constantly getting brought back to life. He keeps dying to Cleganes and other things, and he's got a lot of Frankenstein's monster symbolism because he keeps getting brought back. Their sigil, as you can see, has that lightning bolt down it. He's called the Lightning Lord, which goes not to the original Mary Shelley book, but it kind of harkens back to the original Universal Monster movies where they use lightning to bring him back, and he's constantly getting brought back. And yeah, Beric's just a really interesting character, and then what he does later in the books of giving the kiss of life to Catelyn Stark turning into Lady Stoneheart. Spoilers. I'm gonna say right now I'll probably spoil the Game of Thrones books, but I won't do heavily, I don't think, but I will try not to spoil anything for House of the Dragon later on when we get to houses for that. But yeah, past the episodes where we're at. All right. So that's Dondarrion. So we're getting to 25. We're only 5 in. I'll try to hurry. House Aaron, the Eyrie during the summer, Gates of the Moon during the winter, and the Vale. Notable members, Artis the First, also known as the Falcon Knight, was the founder. You got Ronald Aaron, who's the king who flew, and John Aaron and Robert, a.k.a. Sweet Robin. Yeah, so reasons, I don't got too much for him. I really like the Ronald stories, so both of the stories. So the first one is when the Targaryen conquest is going on, Viserys Targaryen kind of just like flew to the top of the Eyrie, and like when Ronald's mom, because Ronald was a little kid, when Ronald's mom like sees the dragon just fly over their army, and she like goes into their throne room, and she's sitting on the throne with young Ronald on her lap. Like, if that isn't a show of force, if that isn't like, by the way, I'm holding your heir, are you gonna surrender? And she doesn't even have to say it. Like, they just know. Like, she just looks at Ronald's mom, and Ronald's mom's like, yeah, okay, checkmate. Holy crap, I didn't even know we were playing chess, and I lost already. And so he, flew in on her dragon, and then so he got on the dragon as a king. By the time he landed, he was the Lord. So that's the story. And that's why he started being called the king who flew. But then his younger brother tosses him out the moon door to get control of the Eyrie, and there adds another name for the king who flew because he flies out the moon door. That's kind of like the only really cool story that I think for the Aarons. If you guys have a lot of Aaron love, I'm going to tell you right now, I have some of the higher houses rather up because they didn't resonate with me very well. So if you guys are like, come on, House Aaron, tell me in the comments. Tell me where they're at on your list. It's awesome. I'm not arguing with you. Yeah, and then I do like the Winged Knight stuff later on in the books and in the new books. And yeah, their words are as high as honor. All right, 24, House Tyrell. Yeah, 2 great houses back to back, just like that. Highgarden and the Reach. Their founder was Alyssa Tyrell, and then the first lord of the house is Harlan Tyrell. You got Martin Tyrell, and of course, then Mace, Willis, Garland, Loras, and Marjorie from the main books. I do like the Green Knight symbolism and the Arthurian symbolism. They do kind of like come off as Arthurian knights from the Round Table. And the trope is really funny. The muscle-headed men, and they always marry clever women. So not just Mace Tyrell with his mom, Leanna. No, not Leanna. Wow, how am I forgetting the Queen of Thrones name right now? Wow. It was one of those brain farts. I'm just going to go on right now. But she was a red wine, which is why she's not on here. The Queen of Thorns isn't on here. But that's going to kill me. Lena? All right, whatever. But not only that, but Martin Tyrell was made Master of Coin during Jaehaerys' reign, and it wasn't because he was good with money. It was because he married a Fossaway, who might be on these lists later, who was really good. So really, he was kind of just like only Master of Coin by name, and then his clever wife was the Master of Coin. So yeah, I do kind of like that. Like, they're idiots, but they marry really well. But yeah, there we go. Their words are growing strong. We got the Cleganes. They weren't originally this high on my list, but going back at it, I mean, you kind of just have to with how interesting of a character Sandor is, and with how terrifying of a character Gregor is. So yeah, their location is just called Clegane's Keep in the Westerlands. So they are a bannermen of the Lannisters, of course. Their founder was just named Clegane, and it became their last name. So he was the founder. And then, of course, I'll stop saying of course. Gregor the Mountain and Sandor the Hound are the most notable members. Sandor has his broken man symbolism, which I love, and he is a very interesting character exploring trauma, PTSD, and abuse from his older brother. And the Mountain is just one of the best villains and most terrifying humans ever to exist in this series. And yeah, so Clegane's, I could do a 23. House Lofton, heck yeah, I wanted them to be higher. They are extinct. They are one of the Harrenhal curse houses. So they were after House Strong, I believe, is when the Loftons became the Lords of Harrenhal, and you all know how that lasted. They're not anymore. So they are extinct. Their most notable members are Guy the Glutton Lofton and Mad Danelle Lofton. So Guy the Glutton is my favorite. I'm called them one paragraph characters from the book. So in House of the Dragon, not House of the Dragon, sorry, Fire and Blood, Volume 1, Guy Lofton has one paragraph. So he fights for the Maegor the Cruel. So Maegor the Cruel takes over takes the throne and then flies over to the Sept, where the warrior sons have all gathered, and he's like, they're all like, hey, we're gonna kill you. He's like, yeah, not gonna happen. I have Blackfire. I'm giant. I'm a badass. Get out of my city. And they're like, no, I challenge you to, combat, like trial by combat. And he's like, cool. They're like, we might as well make it a trial by 7. He's like, sweet. So this is the first of the 2 trial by 7s we ever hear about, Trial of 7. And one of the people who fights for Maegor is Guy Lofton. And he's just this fat dude. They call him Guy the Glutton. And I'm kind of a chubster, so I like have my love for fat characters who are also just equally awesome. Like, they're badass. Just because he's big doesn't make him not a good knight. And he is a good knight, and he holds his own. Eventually, everybody but Maegor dies in that trial by 7. But I love the line that when Guy dies, they cut his gut open. They say there's 20 half-eaten pies that spill out of his gut. Like, that's what the small folks say. And I know it would be like, just like pie, like you couldn't see, but I like the cartoony Bugs Bunny version of literally half-eaten full pies. I like Guy Glutton for that. And not only Guy, but you also still have Mad Danielle Lofton, who was the evil witch of Harrenhal. She wore black armor. She had a lot of blood symbolism. Also, their sigil is the bat, and she does have similarities to Elizabeth Bathory, what do you ever want to call her? The chick who apparently would bathe in the blood of virgins, and that's what they would say. They would say stuff like that about Mad Danielle as well. And yeah, so really interesting character. All right. Moving on. This is going to take longer than I thought. 30 houses. Whose idea was that? 21, House Fossaway. We just talked about a trial by 7. These guys were involved in the other trial by 7. So Cider Hall is where the red apple goes. New Barrel is where the Branch family, the green apples go. Notable members: Foss the Archer, another son of Garth the Greenhand, was the founder, and then Florence Fossaway. Florence Fossaway is the person who married Martin Tyrell, so she was really the hand of the queen, or not hand of the queen, but she was really the master of coin for Jaehaerys for a little while. Yeah, so that's what she's on here. Stefan Fossaway and Raymond Fossaway were both part of the Trial by Seven, and that's what split the greens and the reds. And yeah, so Raymond is the founder of the Green Apples, and Derek Fossaway is the Bad Apple. So their involvement in the Trial by Seven and Ashford Meadow is what really gets them on here. I love that whole schism for their house. And Raymond says that I would rather be a unripe green apple than a rotten apple, because Stefan Fossaway is kind of a jerk. And then not only that, but Derek the Bad Apple Fossaway was a member of the Band of Nine, aka the Nine Penny Kings. So one of these knights was exiled from House Fossaway and then became like a sellsword like villain lord who joined in with the Band of Nine to try to carve out pieces of Westeros during the War of the Nine Penny Kings. Kind of really interesting. I can't wait until Fire and Blood Volume 2 to learn more about the War of the Nine Penny Kings, because I kind of want to learn more about Derek Fossaway. A taste of glory is the words, at least for the house, and or the red apples, and I don't know what the word is for the mottos are for the green apples. So, all right. 20, House Horror. House Horror is also extinct. I got a lot of extinct houses on here. Herring Horror was the first king who won the Kingsmoot. And then Harland is, I believe, the one who took over the Riverlands. And then Harren the Black is, of course, the guy who tried to make Harrenhal. And the main reason is just Harrenhal, the hubris of this guy who tried to conquer so much, or who did conquer so much, and he wanted to make the greatest castle ever. And it got him killed because of the tragedy of Harrenhal. Because of what happened with Aegon the Conqueror, who killed him with Blair and the Black Dread. And then you have, the curse of Harrenhal, all going from that, all because of Harren the Black's hubris, leading to this curse, and every house that gets Harrenhal eventually dies out. Yeah, dude, that kind of like single-handedly gets it. I love the idea of all of that, of how hubris not only took out Harren the Black, but really like cursed everything there. But yeah. All right. Very different. Here we go from House Horror to the High Towers at 19. Of course, the High Tower in Old Town, the Reach, is their seat. Notable houses, or notable members, we've got a lot here. We got Uthor of the High Tower is kind of the founder. So by that, I mean, he's like traditionally considered the founder of the house, because he's the one who started to build the tower on top of the old fort there. But I do believe the family itself was there at the High Tower way before any of that. So, they are a very ancient house, but he's like kind of considered the founder. Paramore Hightower, the Twisted, is the founder of the Citadel. And then you got Manfred Hightower, Otto Hightower, Alyssa Hightower. I don't have to tell you guys who they are. Leighton Hightower is the one who's there during A Song of Ice and Fire main books. And then Baelor Brightsmile is his son. Your reasons. So their possible connection to ancient empires, like where the actual fort that the High Tower is built on comes from, because it is that Blackstone. We don't really know. It might be like Empire of the Dawn stuff. We're not really sure. Their connections to both the Citadel and the Sept, what makes them a huge threat. And that's constantly what they do. They are really big schemers, and they can be. There's a lot of Maester conspiracies that are tied to House Hightower, because since they are major patrons to the Citadel and give so much money to the Citadel, they possibly can control them and use the influence of the Maesters. Like, if you want to go deep into that tinfoil hat theory, that Preston Jacob stuff, like they really do control, or they possibly can control Maesters, or at least the Grand Maester. which we do kind of see in House of the Dragon with the relationship between Grandmaster Mellows and Otto Hightower. So yeah, that's a big thing. Of course, then also with the Sept, there was a lot of high septums who were high towers and things like that. It just makes them such a major threat. And a lot of cool stories, like Manfred Hightower. I kind of moved past him, but he was the he kind of did that. He was a Hightower that kind of started this precedent that a lot of them did. It was he kind of waits to see and prays and kind of, doesn't really make their moves. And there was a Hightower that during Aegon's conquest didn't go out to attack them right away, and then prayed on it and opened the doors to the Targaryens, so they never lost any of their power, and they kind of remained a really strong house for that. And then there was the Hightower during the rule of Jaehaerys, that even though he had that septum moon outside of the walls, he wasn't letting them in, but at the same time, he wasn't getting rid of them. They kind of do this wait and see approach that actually really works. And then, of course, they really make their moves during the reign of Viserys, when Otto Hightower becomes Hand of the King, Alicent Hightower becomes queen. They almost take the throne straight up. Like, Hightowers, you can't sleep on them. They are powerful. House Manderley, they're just a little cooler. They're also originally from the Reach, but they moved to the Wolf's Den in the north. When they got kicked out, they were Lords of the Mander River. That's how they got their name, the Manderleys. They now have Newcastle in White Harbor. Notable members are, of course, Wyman, my man, and then his son, Willis Manderley. I love this idea of the Reach men and these southern tactics and these southern ideals, but for the North, right? Like, they are still the fierce Stark loyalists, right? So I love that they kind of act in they still do the Fates of the Seven, but they turn their little seat. They just get the Wolves' Den, and they eventually make White Harbor like the biggest city in the North, one of the biggest cities in all of Westeros, because they act and think like Southern folk, but they are Stark loyalists. Like, they are the North. They're Northern Southern lords. It's really cool. And then, of course, Wyman is a powerhouse main character because of the whole Frey Pie stuff and the Rat King stuff. I don't want to talk about it because it's some nasty stuff, but please look into it. Awesome. I love the Manderleys. I'm spending too long on every house, so I should get moving. The Martells, so also known as Naemiris Martell. So Old Palace in Sunspear in Dorne. Their founder was Morgan Martell, and then Mors Martell married Nymeria when she landed with her 10,000 ships. That's why I say Nymeria is kind of a member, because she married into it. And that's why later their name is called the Nymeris Martell, although everyone just calls them Martells. Mira Martell is the Yellow Toad of Dorne, who fought against Aegon in the War of Conquest and actually totally fought him off until she died, and then her son kind of gets peace. And then you got Jorah Martell. I don't need to say who that is. And then Elia, Oberyn, the Red Viper, and then Doran's kids, Arion and Quentin Martell. Of course, is Quentin alive? I say no. I'm a big fan of the Dornish plot in the books. I don't go as hardcore as the Grand Dornish conspiracy, like certain people, Preston Jacobs. And how they fought against the Targaryens for so long, it's just really cool. Their guerrilla tactics, how they don't really act like the Knights of Westeros, and how they kind of think their own way. And it's funny because they really do kind of come off as so different from the rest of the houses, kind of like how the North is. Like, the North and Dorne are kind of separate from everyone else in their own ways, and that's really cool. Plus, Oberyn Martell and the Sand Snakes are great characters. Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken are their words. House Greyjoy. Boom, we're just doing major houses just like this. Pike in the Iron Islands, Vicon Greyjoy, Dalton, the Red Kraken are very notable. And then, of course, you got Balon Greyjoy and his brother, Euron the Crow's Eye, one of the most terrifying freaking fictional characters ever. Victorian Greyjoy, the Iron Captain, of course, and then Euron, Damp Hair Greyjoy. I don't know why I left out all of the nicknames. A lot. Asha Greyjoy and Theon Greyjoy. I don't have to tell you who Theon or Asha. I guess they call her Yara in the show, but yeah. So there's a lot of Lovecraftian symbolism here, and I do like Lovecraft. I don't like him too much of as a person, but I do like his stories. And then you got the deep ones, symbolism and imagery that really ties in with the Greyjoys. Also, the POV Greyjoy characters in the books have amazing chapters, and they are really the highlight of the later books. Asha and Victorian especially, and then Theon with his whole Reek thing later on, and then even Aaron Damphair is a great POV character. So yeah, don't sleep on the Greyjoys. I know that it's easy to not like them because of kind of how they are in the show. They kind of get sidelined, but they are really interesting, especially later on in the books. All right, 15, House Tywin. Now this is the weird one. I sent this list to a friend of mine who I really trust when it comes to Game of Thrones stuff. And he's like, I like your list. Who is House Tywin? He's like, why is a house that I don't know about 15? Well, let me explain. So they are extinct. Yeah. All right, here we go. Notable members, Torrance Tywin and Simon Tywin and Miles Tywin. So these guys are just super rebellious. So Aegon the Unworthy stripped them of their lands and houses when Torrance Tywin, who was a member of his Kingsguard, was sleeping with one of his mistresses. Not even sleeping with his wife, but one of his mistresses, which is House Bracken. So he gets him torn to pieces, and they strip the Tywins of their land and title, and then the Brackens lose a lot of their influence at court too, because she gets killed right after, which is one reason why Bitter Steel is called Bitter Steel and not like, honorable steel. So House Tywin then kind of joins like most of the rebellions afterwards. So, or at least a couple of them. So Simon Tywin is the leader of the Kingswood Brotherhood and does end up getting killed by Barristan and Selmy. And then one of them, Miles Tywin, became the commander of the Golden Company, and his head is dipped in gold with a lot of the other former commanders, along with Bittersteel. So I just like their rebellious thing, I'm kind of into that. I'm a bit of an anarchist, and I kind of like houses that are like, screw this. So yeah, fly high, fly far. That they did. I like their sigil as well. That black heart with wings, great. House Bolton. I mean, do I gotta explain? I mean, they're the Dreadfort. They were the Red Kings for hundreds of years. Our blades are sharp is some of the best words. But yeah, all right, let's explain. So Roose Bolton and Ramsay Bolton are the notable members. I do love Roose's Vlad the Impaler similarities, along with the Dracula and vampire symbolism. He's called the Leech Lord. He's all about blood and the balancing the humors in his body. And pairing Roose's cold, collected, dark mind with Ramsay's loud and clearly psychotic evil is super interesting. And we don't know how their characters end in the books, and I'm really excited to see where they go. And yeah, hashtag bolt on, hashtag Roose is a skin-changing vampire. All right, 13, House Blackfire, right? Extinct, at least in the male line. There you go, for you fake Aegon people out there. Notable members, Daemon Blackfire is the founder. He was the bastard son of one of the great bastards of Aegon the Unworthy, and then Daemon the second Blackfire, and then Meleys the monstrous Blackfire. You want to know why? You want to know why they're this high? Because they were named after a sword and started like 5 rebellions. What's not to love? I love the Blackfires. They're great. And we don't know all about all of the rebellions, like more than just a couple sentences, but the ones we have heard about are really interesting. And yeah, I kind of want to throw Bittersteel in here, but he is not a Blackfire. He just is kind of like the main ally of the Blackfires. But yeah, and then later he made Golden Company. Yeah, there we go. House Blackfire. House Valerian, especially House of the Dragon watchers know what I'm talking about here. Their castle Driftmark, formerly High Tide, that's kind of spoilers, on Driftmark in the Crown Lands. You got Daemon Valerian, who is part of the small council, for Aegon the Conqueror. And then you have Alyssa Valerian, who is really important in Fire and Blood. She is the mom of King Jaehaerys and like marries a Baratheon, and like she's got a lot of ties to a lot of the most important characters in the Valerys or Jaehaerys chapters. Sorry, in Fire and Blood. Corlys Valerian, of course, the Sea Snake. I don't need to explain why Corlys. We'll get to him. And then Laenor Valerian and Adam Valerian, who you guys don't know yet, and Aelin Valerian named Oakenfist. I don't want to get too much into Adam and Aelin Valerian yet, because it might be spoilers for House of the Dragon. So I will just say Corlys Valerian, with his voyages, 9 voyages, single-handedly earns them this high up on the list. He is amazing. But also, the Hull brothers, which I'm not going to get into, are great, especially Oakenfist. The old, the true, the brave, the Valerians. House 11. Here's another extinct house. I love my extinct houses, if you haven't noticed. So this is House Gardner, the original house of the Reach, main house of the Reach. They were the kings in the Reach. Garth the Greenhand is kind of the founder. And then you got Garth the Gardener, who is considered the founder. He's one of the sons of Garth the Greenhand. And then the final gardener is named Mern the Ninth. Mern? Your name's Mern? What a weird name. Mern? There's 9 of you? 9 different gardeners were like, let's name our son Mern. What a weird name. Mern. If there's any Merns out there, I'm sorry. Random reason, of course, is the Order of the Green Hand in the all has this really Knights of the Round Table vibes. Also, Garth the Green Hand has a ton of Green Man symbolism and Horned Man and Celtic Druid vibes, being like a god of fertility, because Garth the Green Hand has had all these different kids and so on and so forth. And he's, watch some David Lightbringer, formerly known as Luciferian Lightbringer videos. You'll learn all about the Green Hand symbolism and Green Man symbolism and Horned Man symbolism, Horny Men. It's really great stuff. And all that kind of Green Man stuff is kind of what gets them this high up. Just, they're such a symbolic house, and we never even meet any of them because they're gone, because they got murdered by King Aegon, or Aegon the Conqueror. All right, Tully. Tully's made it up really high, guys. I'm sorry. I love the Tullys. I think they're full of grit. They're like the Detroit Lions this year. They're just grit. They're a gritty house. The Detroit Lions, really? That's all right. That's what not having a script does. All right. River Run in the Riverlands. Notable members: Edmund Tully. And here we go, guys. Grover, Elmo, Kermit, and Oscar Tullys. Yes. I call them the Sesame Street crew. Holster Tully is Catelyn's dad. And then you got Brendan Blackfish, her uncle, who's a great character, Catelyn herself. And then Edmure Tully. You know, somebody was getting married at the Black Wedding. Black Wedding? Red Wedding. There you go. Somebody was getting married at the Red Wedding, and it was Edmure Tully. Poor guy. So they are kind of badass. That's kind of it. Like, the Tullys are just part of every war happens to land in the Riverlands, and the Tullys kind of just are full of grit. They were never kings, but they did help Aegon the Conqueror take down Harren the Black, and then they later got named as the Lords of the Riverlands. And the entire, quote, Sesame Street crew during the Dance of the Dragons are little beasts. I don't want to give anything away. I don't even know if they're going to keep with the naming scheme. They might change it, because naming a bunch of characters after Sesame Street characters is funny for like a little lower Easter egg. But now, you know, there's actually a TV show, so they might change the names of Elmo and Kermit and everything. But they did name Grover Tully in the show already. So, yeah, we'll see if his son is Elmo and then Elmo's sons are Kermit and Oscar. We'll see. But, yeah, their crew is really great in the books. And like I said, I don't want to give it away. And the Blackfish is a major favorite. Don't forget Catelyn Tully. A lot of people give her a lot of crap, but I do think she's a super interesting character in the books. And Lady Stoneheart, family, duty, honor. Family comes first. Oh, the Lannisters, number 9. Oh, I'm going to get a lot of hate. I bet a lot of you guys have Lannisters at like 3 or 2 or maybe even 1. Sorry, that's just not how I roll. I do love the Lannisters. I do. Don't get me wrong. Casterly Rock in the Westerlands, at least that's where the main house is. You do have the cadet branch that is in Lannisport. But you got Lan the Clever is the founder. Joffrey Lyddon later changed his name to Joffrey Lannister because he married a female and it didn't want the Lannisters to die. So he is the first Andal, which is why they're an Andal house and not a old man or first man house, because Joffrey Lyddon marries a Lannister and then changes his name to carry on the Lannister. So you got Lauren the First named Lauren the Last Lannister. Of course, you got Jason Lannister, who you have seen in House of the Dragon. Tywin Lannister, who you've also seen. So Tytos is named the Toothless Lion, who was Tywin's dad. Gary Lannister and Kevin Lannister are Tywin's brothers. Lancel is Kevin's son. Oh my God, these Lannisters! I'm surrounded by them. Lancel Lannister, who named you some half-witch with a stutter. And then, of course, all of the main Lannisters from the book: Jaime, Cersei, Tyrion. I don't need to explain who these characters are. I don't think I need to say too much. I love the rich a-hole vibe that the historical ones give off. And it's funny because historical Lannisters aren't really like main villains. Like, they're all kind of like posh, silver spoon up their butt jerks. But, they're not really they don't really come off as evil until Tywin was a complete monster. But it's funny, if you go back and look at the history books, like, the Lannisters aren't really like that. They're just kind of like rich D-bags, but they're not like evil by any means. But Tywin, due to a lot of his emotional issues, completely ruined his children. So I do love all the, like, Jaime, Cersei, and Tyrion and Tywin at a later extent are amazingly written characters, and they explore themes of shame and legacy and pride and the effect that emotionally abusive parents has on their kids. So we explore a lot here with the Lannisters, and they are great characters in their own right, even the more evil ones. But yeah. All right, hear me roar are their official words, and unofficially, a Lannister always pays. It should be their debts. Come on. Pronouns, but it's his debts. House Crab. I don't even know what their sigil looks like. I got House Crab at number 8. Oh my God. People are mad about this. I don't care. I love Nimble Dick Crab. Tells the story of Clarence Crab. Sorry, they're formerly in the Whispers in the Crownlands. I don't know where they stay now. I don't even think they have a seat anymore. But Nimble Dick tells the story of the Whispers, which is allegedly named over the several heads that Clarence Crab would collect because he would murder all of his enemies. He was this big, giant monster of a guy, and he would cut the heads off of his enemies, and he'd bring him back to his wife, who then would use black magic to raise the heads from the dead. And these heads were used as counselors and would whisper into his ears. And he would just be this big, giant guy who would just hang out with severed heads, and they would whisper advice in his ears. And that's how he ran his kingdom. This story is so insane, and it really shows that you don't need to be a big, important main house like the Lannisters to be interesting. You just kind of have to have a really cool legend and really cool stuff. And that's it. And Nimble Dick himself is a really cool character. He is funny, and it is tragic, and he does defy everything that Brienne, all of the expectations that Brienne has for him, because she really just kind of thinks that he's going to, like, kill them or steal from them or something, but it just turns out he's a great guy who just likes jokes, and that's good old Nimble Dick. Good old Nimble Dick. Yeah, I'm not gonna change it. All right, I like House Crab being at 8. I had him higher. All right, I did. All right, House Strong. I'm glad that the show is backing me up on this one, because I wrote this list before the last couple episodes, and holy crap, I don't need to defend House Strong so much anymore. But yeah, House Strong is great. Osmond Strong was a hand of the king to Aegon the Conqueror, and he's responsible for a lot of the walls of King's Landing. So he's a first man house. An ancient house that put up walls. There's kind of weird hints there. And also Lucamore the Lusty, Lucamore Strong, Lionel Strong, who you guys met, Harwin Breakbones, and of course, Larry's the Clubfoot. Lucamore is full of horned man symbolism. They called him the White Bull when they first meet him, even though their sigil doesn't have like a bill or a bull on it. They get horned man symbolism because he's called the Bull, and also his helmet had horns. And so this goes back to horned man symbolism that I was talking about with the gardeners, because Lucamore the Lusty is called this horned man or horny man, and he had 16 different bastards, and he was gelded by King Jacaerys and booted to the wall. Sorry, I'm at like 46 minutes of just pulling this stuff on my head, so I'm going to start messing up names. I know it. And yeah, so he had the same amount of bastards as King Robert. And even without the fertility god stuff, we have some really great characters, especially with Larry's the Clubfoot. And check out Joe Magician's stuff. He has a lot of videos on Strongs, like them being tied to other ancient houses. And not only all that, but going back to the fertility god stuff, the Strongs had, so Lucamore had 16 different kids, and then those kids were all turned bastards and were all sent to all these different houses. And then you kind of see that those houses kind of start to change. Like Baratheons were always kind of big, but after that, they sent a bunch of strong bastards who just changed their name to Storm. You kind of don't think about them anymore. But after that, the Baratheons kind of all got a big glow up. They all got a blow up. They all got huge after that. And it's kind of weird that Robert Baratheon has a lot in common with Lucamore Strong after the Strongs were there. And the seed is strong. They all kind of became big, huge dudes after that. So I think there's a lot of really cool hidden stuff there that I don't want to get into it too much, but that's why I like House Strong. And then right after House Strong at number 7, you got number 6 with the Baratheon. Storm's End and the Stormlands is their seat. Orlys Baratheon was the first hand of the king. He was called Orlys One Hand, and then after he lost his hand, he stopped being the hand of the king. After that, he is the founder of House Baratheon. Rhaegar Baratheon, Jocelyn Baratheon, and then why can't I talk right now? Lionel Baratheon, also known as the Laughing Storm. And then, of course, King Robert Baratheon, and then Stannis the Manus and Renly. I'm not going to say Joffrey and Tommen. I don't consider them Baratheons. They're bastards. They don't have a house. There's some really cool stag symbolism with them butting heads with each other, especially Stannis and Renly. Them being, the butting heads being the main thing of their stag symbolism. Also, the Thor lightning god stuff. They're always called storm gods or gods of storm, right? Like lightning gods of lightning, like Thor. And also, Robert Baratheon had his Warhammer, also like Thor, so there's some cool stuff there. Orlys is the highlight of the early chapters of Fire and Blood. Orlys Baratheon is really, really, really great. I don't want to give away him finding the house, but I love that story completely. And then, so Robert is a hoot, but he's a complete crap person. And Stannis is the Manus. Their words are ours is the Fury. Really underrated words, I think. There you go. They were House They were number 6. We're top 5 now. House Reed. They are Greywater Watch in the north. I know. House Reed, number 5. Deal with it. All right. Howland Reed, Jojen, and Mira. My love comes with the mystery and speculation that surrounds this house. Like, Howland is connected with the Tower of Joy. What happened with him at the Tower of Joy? Is Howland a Greenseer? Does he know Jon's parentage? What does a lizard lion look like? This house is in the center of the biggest mysteries of the entire story. And we haven't even met Howland. Howland is sitting on all of this knowledge of mysteries, and he can solve so much, and he's just kind of hanging out on Greywater Watch by himself. There's also a lot of theories of him being tied in with House Dane, with Ashara Dane. That's a theory, which I kind of like. I hope we do meet Howland soon, but we do meet his awesome kids. Jojen is Pace, and Miran's a badass. We do not. Mira is a badass, and we do not know their words yet. I bet we do eventually, and I think the reason why we don't know them yet is because they might be like, spoilery. All right, number 4, House Targaryen. We are hanging out with the big names now, guys. Holy crap, Targaryen, Dragonstone, formerly Aegon Fort, formerly Red Keep, formerly. There are too many notable members, so I just put. There's a lot of different Aemons. There's a lot of different Aegons. Specifically, Aemon One-Eye. I'm glad we're finally getting to him in House of the Dragon. Aemon One-Eye is one of my favorite characters ever. I just like all 3 of the big main Aemons. You got Aemon One-Eye, Aemon the Dragon Knight under Aegon the Unworthy, and then, of course, Maester Aemon. There isn't a King Aemon in, the 3 Aemons that we meet are, the 3 best Targaryens who never got crowned. It's crazy. Aemon, then there's, of course, all the different Aegon Targaryens, all 5 King Aegons, and then a couple that were never crowned. And then, of course, I had to give it up to Dreamfire Rhaena is a major favorite of mine. And then, of course, Daenerys and Rhaenys Targaryen and Rhaenyra Targaryen. I should have wrote their names down. I don't know why I didn't. They're all great. There's so many awesome House Targaryen names. I could name them all, but I'll be here all day. I don't know what to say. They are incest-having, beautiful, dragon-riding monsters, okay? I hate feudalism, and I think a large point of the book is how feudalism is wrong and how this political system isn't okay. But all that being said, you think that if I hate feudalism, and if George does, why focus on the Targaryens so much? Because they are kind of what's wrong, right? The act of conquering, I think, is evil. The idea of taking over and murdering and starting wars where all these different people die just because you want to be in charge of this continent, I think is a bad, evil act. But there is something so seductive about the Targaryens, and in I don't know, they're so interesting, and I want to love them. I love them for all their good and all of their bad. It's sorry to get all lovey-dovey with the Targaryens, but they are just such interesting characters, and especially now that they've brought up of why Aegon did it is because of his prophecy. That just makes them more interesting as well. It kind of takes away them being evil, and it's saying that they conquered the entire land for good, which I'm kind of conflicted on whether or not I like that, but it doesn't matter. Their words are fire and blood. They earned their number 4 spot. If any of these top 4 are your number 1, I get it. All right, I totally get it. If the Targaryens are your number 1, I will not fight you on that. It's your opinion, and that's awesome. All right, number 3. This is controversial. All right, Starks. They are not number 1. I love the Starks, okay? Oh, my God, there's so much on this card. Brandon the Builder is their founder. There's a bunch of Brandons. I don't need to get into all of them. There's Torrhen Stark, the King Who Knelt. There's Cregan Stark, the Young Wolf, who is one of my favorite characters in Fire and Blood. And then you have Rickon Stark, Brandon Stark, Eddard Stark, Lyanna Stark, Benjen Stark, Robb Stark, Sansa Stark, Arya Stark, Brandon Stark, and Rickon Stark. You got a lot. That's all one family right there. All right. there's still so much we don't know about the Starks. So there's a lot of mysterious stuff, all this dark, ancient Stark stuff. Like, are they part, or like, did they make a pact with the others? Like, that's kind of hinted at. Are they actually part other themselves? Like, did they marry in with others? Like, that is a theory. Why does there always need to be a Stark in Winterfell? Like, what's that mean? And there's a lot of stuff, and it's funny because there's all this mystery surrounding this house, but we know them so well. Like, we've had more Stark POVs, well, probably tied with some families, but they are like the main characters in the first books, and they're just full of these interesting and flawed characters, and there's still so much we don't know. So yeah, winter is coming. The Starks, again, if you have Starks at number 1, I will not fight you on that. I'd be surprised if anybody has my number 2 in their top 3 like I do, but I'm sorry. It's weird. It's controversial, but this is my list, and I like them. My number 2 is House Blackwood. I love the Blackwoods of Raventree Hall. You got Benjamin Blackwood, Bloody Ben, Alicent Blackwood, Black Allie Blackwood, and then Melissa Blackwood was the mother of Brendan Rivers, who I have in here. It's the only bastard I have like named for them, but whatever. I consider him Blackwood. Well, he was legitimized, right? So screw it. Brendan Blackwood. And then Betha Blackwood, who married Cregan Stark. Betha Blackwood married into the Targaryens, married Aegon V. Melissa Blackwood married Cregan Stark. There you go. No, never mind. Black Allie married Cregan Stark. Never mind. Oh, I'm all confused. Melissa Blackwood is Brendan Rivers' mother, but it doesn't matter. So why is this house so high up? Well, this is my favorite old god of worshipping house. They have that like Montagues and Capulets thing going on with House Bracken, showing us this giant pointless feud that lasts for thousands of years, even though the Brackens and the Blackwoods always marry each other. So it's like you're hating your cousins, essentially. But other than that, which is interesting on its own, that would have got them on the list. It definitely would not have gotten them number 2, the Montague and Capulet Bracken thing. But importantly, their connection with the old gods is like equally as strong with the Starks. And Brendan Rivers becoming the Blood Raven, like it kind of gives them this like the Blackwoods. Ooh, I got a typo there. There's something about the Blackwoods that make them seem like darker Starks. They're like the more evil Starks. I love them. And I maybe, this is just weird. I just got like this weird love for them, and a lot of people don't. But again, this is why this is my list and no one else's. If you don't have the Blackwoods this high up, I completely get it. And we don't know their words. It's weird that like we don't know the words of a house that's interesting. But I love the Blackwoods. And yeah, they're my number 1. Or my number 2. Who do I got for number 1? I'm sure you might have guessed it. But yeah, let's do it. I got a lot written on this card, but here we go. Number 1, House Dane, located in Starfall in Dorne. Isn't it weird that a house that doesn't like you barely meet in the main books, the main show, they're this high up? But notable members, of course, you have Sir Arthur Dane of the Kingsguard. You have Ashara Dane, his sister, and Gerald Darkstar Dane. He is of the Night. He's the massive edgelord of Dorne. And Edric Dane, who you only get to meet once, but he is the squire for Barrett Dondarrion, and he has a really cool scene with Arya Stark. All right, this one's hard to explain. So the fascination with House Dane is thanks to a lot of the mysteries, just like House Reed. Is Dawn more important? Like it's forged from a dying star. Like their main sword, Dawn, isn't just like an ancestral, isn't just like a normal Valyrian steel sword. It's not Valyrian steel. It's older than that. It's more ancient than that. And they said it was forged from a dying star. There's a lot of falling star symbolism with them, which can be tied in with like the last, or with the last hero, whatever it's called, and the Azor Ahai prophecy. So like, is Dawn actually Lightbringer? I mean, Dawn does mean the bringer of light, right? Where did they come from? Why do they look Valyrian? Are they connected to the original Azor Ahai? I guess I already said that. What happened at the Tower of Joy? We don't really know what went down there. And why do they have purple eyes? Why do they look Valerian? And are they connected to the Empire of the Dawn, the old empire? And yeah, and on top of all the mysteries and all that stuff, so are they tied in with this old empire? Are they the original Azor Ahai? There's a lot of these really cool fan theories, but it isn't just the fan theories of why they're high up here. They have the most important symbolism, in my opinion, tied to them. So specifically, Arthur Dane and Ashara Dane represented heroism. So Ashara was like this perfect lady. She was the most beautiful. Everybody wanted her. She was like the poster child of like being a noble lady. And then Arthur was considered the perfect knight. I mean, he's even named Arthur, like King Arthur. Like, again, going back to Arthurian symbolism, he's like the perfect knight. He's the knight of the King's Guard. He has this legendary sword, you know, all this stuff. But even though they're your stereotypical fantasy characters, they're the fantasy heroes, they're dead before the story starts. And that just shows us, that is Germ, that is George R. R. Martin telling us that your fantasy tropes, your heroes, your main heroes, they're already dead. That's not the kind of fantasy story he is writing. This story isn't about the hero with the magical sword. It isn't. It might be later on. I mean, I don't know how it ends. Don might show up in somebody's hands and they will become a mythical hero with a mythical sword. But that's what this is A Song of Ice and Fire isn't your normal fantasy. It's about, it really kind of tackles the, death of heroism, that your heroes aren't who you think they are. Like Jaime Lannister is not Prince Charming, right? He's not your stereotypical hero, even though he should be. He's a beautiful knight, but he's got a lot of flaws. And even Arthur Dane himself, he was the King's Guard for the Mad King. He probably sat alongside 1,000 travesties and let it all happen, right? It's showing us the corruption of this world and everything like that. And that tied in with all the other mysteries with House Dane is why I put them at their number one. They are my favorite house in A Song of Ice and Fire. I think they're really deep. They're really awesome. And it's cool because not only do we not know the words, but we know why we don't know them. George R. R. Martin said that it's a spoiler. That it's a spoiler that this random house in Dorne has holds a secret that might give away the ending. And it's so cool. I could keep going about House Dane. I might, maybe I'll make a video just about a couple of these houses. If you guys want that, I can do deep dives into why I like all of these houses and 20 more. Okay, I wanted to have House Magnar on here. I wanted to have House Uller on here. There's a lot of houses I wanted to have on here, and I didn't end up doing it. But yeah, like House Frey. There's a lot of houses that didn't make it. That maybe I'll do another one of these or something like that where I can just dive into these houses separately if you want that. I talked for more than an hour. I gotta go. Thank you guys for watching. Click like, subscribe, share this with everybody. Have a good one.